Welcome back to the Holy Hot Honey Hour, where we get into the sauce with the people that make food culture what it is. I'm your host, Matthew Zeiss, with my normal co-host, Garrett Klein, out of the picture today. He couldn't make it, but with us is our very special guest, the founder of Rust and Gold 1635 Pizza and the Rolling Gold, Mr. Frank Antonetti. Welcome to the Hive, dude.
What's up, man? How's it going? How are you?
Good, man. I was thinking about it. I was just telling my wife, I think you and I met almost 20 years ago. I think it was...
Yeah, what was it was it's through musical contacts, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Aaron Edney introduced us, I think, but
That's right. Yeah,
but I don't remember where. I just know it was amongst hanging out and stuff, and then
yeah.
but that was before you were even in the food
That was
industry,
so
right?
long ago. I think that might have been more around the time that I was still kind of focusing more on nightlife and music venues and stuff. I think because Aaron and I went to high school together. Obviously, you've always been an
Okay,
incredible performer and stuff. So I feel like
thanks.
that's probably would make the most sense. But it's
Yeah.
I've had a few Peronis since then, so my memory isn't always the best.
What was your I don't even know what, because my memory's also been shot. What was your involvement in nightclubs and such at the time? And also, which I just had a conversation the other day with Mike from Mike's Underground. It was the nightlife that we once knew is gone.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, yeah. The way that shifted is crazy. Well, for the first part of that, I I had a career in music out of high school, but I've always worked in hospitality as well. So, it's kind of like they go hand in hand, especially when you're
Yeah.
home from tour for stretches and things like that. When I finally stopped touring, me and a couple other guys who also ended up now in hospitality as well, we took over the Amityville Music Hall, which is right next to Mike's Underground over there.
Yeah.
Back then bar, and it's funny how a bunch of kind of Long Island musicians that all decided to just kind of throw their hand at I'd run in a nightclub and a venue. So many of us branched out from that one spot. We all work together, but it's it's me, and I've been lucky to have my places with my partners, and Dan Valentino worked there, who now owns Vauxhall, LC Lane, who now actually owns Amityville Music Hall, Sal Mignano, that went on to open up all the other LC lanes in New Hyde Park and Belmore and Limbrook and stuff. So it's funny, this one little room in Amityville kind of gave birth to a whole bunch of us out there, which is cool.
That's actually super cool. And I'm sure I knew that at the time because
Yeah,
Amityville Music Hall was super hot.
yeah, yeah.
I don't live on Long Island anymore, so I don't know if it's still hot. Is it?
Oh, it's even so. Dan actually partnered up with Jake Zimmerman, who's also a legend in the music industry. They bought the building next to them. They knocked down a wall. They doubled in size. So you got to come next time you're back. You got to come see it. It's amazing. It's a sick venue now.
Yeah, I would love to, man. Yeah, it's been a while. I live in Sweden. I moved maybe, I think it was 4 years ago now. So I don't really, the scene is just invisible to me. I don't know what it is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So my first actual written question was, you've built 3 distinct Long Island spots. Now, and maybe it's more, but I mean, those are the 3 I know of. Pizza, bars, burgers. What is the common DNA, aside from your actual self, that blends them together? Are there elements?
Yeah, I think that my business partners and I are all really good at kind of making, kind of riding the line between making sure that the product feels homegrown, that people know this is real people behind it and there's a lot of heart and soul into all the locations, while still maintaining, high standards as far as professionalism and, what we expect from our staff and, kind of all that. It's a delicate balance for sure. We always were of the mindset that we didn't want to push this kind of super stiff kind of corporate environment, but at the same time keeping tight controls on everything. So finding that balance is something that hasn't always come easy, but I
Yeah.
think that striking that harmony between making sure that you're delivering something that feels like it's from the heart but still delivering it the right way is definitely something that's been a factor in our success.
I mean, for even from hindsight, that's very clear. I remember because Rust and Gold was first, right?
Russ was first, yeah,
Yeah,
2016, yeah.
because I remember going there because I was still doing music at the time, and my buddy, who I'm sure you know from that area, Brendan Sharon, he was
Yeah,
bartending at Nags,
legendary
and
night.
yeah, man. And I mean, I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I had gone to see him and then stopped in and found that you were running this. It was like, oh shit, no, what, no way, that's awesome. And then I see 1635 Pizza, and I mean, it's a genuine compliment that your spots are beautiful. The truck is beautiful too. I mean, I love old timey trucks in the first place. So the fact that I had an idea similar, but yours is of course much better. A few years ago, many years ago, I was like, man, they should have a bar on wheels, but in my mind, it was like an ice cream truck that had like a fold out bar, and then
That's
you
pretty cool.
have this. for alcoholics, but yours is great for actual class and a real, you know, do you which are you still hands on in all three?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, I will correct you. It's 1653.
Oh,
Only
god
because
damn it.
it's all good, man.
You should have corrected me in the
Let-
first place.
um, 1653, named after the year that Huntington was founded.
Okay.
1635. There though, we were working the land. You just weren't rich enough to buy it yet, so you're not totally wrong.
I'll go
But back
back and do
then,
like a Chinese overdub.
Indians controlling the land. And then in 1653, the settlers of the land finally got enough together to make the purchase for it. So we wanted to name it that to kind of give a little bit of an homage to the history of the town because it is such a storied and long history. I'm still very much hands on, especially at 1653. I focus a lot more there now.
Yeah.
Russ, we've been lucky to kind of build up a staff and a management team over there that has allowed me to kind of step away a little bit to focus on the next project. And, hopefully that's the process that we can kind of keep going and stuff and keep growing. 1653 for sure has always felt, like the culmination of a lot of things for me. I grew up in an Italian household. I know I look German Irish, but we're Northern Italian, all right? So
The last name is very obviously not
yeah,
German.
that's no, pizza. I worked in pizzerias as a kid, so that was always part of the picture as well. And then I was lucky enough, like just working in this industry and meeting so many people to be connected to, brilliant chefs and great pizzaiolias and different people that have inspired me and certainly helped along, and helped develop our pizza there and everything like that. So yeah, I'm still there for the most part. Rolling Gold is always cranking. We have another event with it on Saturday, which is great. The Chevy is great. It's a 63 Suburban. It's got all the joys of maintaining an old car, which
Sure.
is, there's a heavy dose of sarcasm there, but also but it's a labor of love, man. Like
Yeah.
whenever we pull that into somebody's driveway and like you see their eyes light up and the
Of
kids get
course.
excited and the dads get excited and the grandpas get excited because like it's cool. It's worth it.
It's a spectacle. I mean, it's super. I mean, if that truck didn't have a bar attached to it, it would still be mesmerizing and stuff. And then you throw this other element into it, and I mean, you've combined two things that most people really enjoy.
Yeah.
I've met only a few handful
Drinking
of
and
people.
driving. Yes. No,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
drinking. Yeah, yeah. But oh yeah, old cars and alcohol and festivities. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a it's a vibe. But
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
yeah, dude. For again, emphasis on an apology for screwing up the name. That's
Don't
wildly
worry.
unprofessional. But so 1653 pizza. I mean, you were kind of this again. This is all from hindsight, but it did appear that because now pizza as a pizza culture has grown wildly in the last couple of years, but 1653 pizza seemed like it was before that actually. Like you guys were ahead of the curve.
I mean, to say that, I think that what I brought to the table there, like as far as the kind of the concept surrounding the actual execution of the pizza is more of what me and my partners did. I can't pretend or lay claim to have any influence on the pizza itself.
Sure.
In the past couple of years, certainly I've gotten back there and gotten my practice chops in, and I can make a good pie now. But we leaned heavily upon our original pizza chef was a guy named Mike Vigliotti. He was with us for the first couple of years. He not only developed an amazing and kind of unique, like dough for us and a unique style of pizza that kind of crosses, the classic Neapolitan with Neapolitan and a little bit of New York flair in there too. He trained all of our staff and he, was the first one to kind of plug us into that scene.
Yeah,
From there, there was already a lot of guys that had been doing it like before 1653 for sure. Mike and Mike's Underground,
he's great.
Chef JJ Hita at the Onion Tree, Chef John Zazzaro, Rob Trivoni over at Talio, the guys at, King Umberto's, Giovanni over there. These are all guys that are far more passionate and knowledgeable than me about specifically pizza. And they kind of laid the tracks. You know, we definitely threw our hat in the ring and made our own unique thing because a lot of them are operating out of places that are more just pizza centric. And we wanted to kind of create an all over experience with that was more of like a cocktail bar and small bistro and, like offer some cool pastas and small plates as well. So again, yeah, like the movement's definitely taken off.
Yeah.
We caught it like at the right moment, but we were again very lucky to have the help of a lot of very much more qualified people to kind of get us off the ground.
Which is a humbling answer, and not that I'm doubting it's true, but it's like, but whose idea was 1653 pizza? Like as an establishment, as a concept, you and your partners, I'm assuming, thought of this.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
it's just like, the concept of a higher end, in a culture where we're all used to slice shops and stuff, and then now this is a really nice experience, as you called it, which is exactly what it is, a sit down opportunity. I mean, it's a, again, everything I see is photo based because I'm not there, but it's a beautiful place, and it looks like
And thank you so much.
really fine dining pizza. You know, that's not a place where I would probably feel comfortable handing it. I'd probably fork and knife it just out of class. You know, you know, so speaking of that, though, I mean, again, I'm not there, but it seems like even when I was there, and it just keeps growing, the evolution of the Long Island dining scene evolves constantly. And now
Yeah,
it's, you know, there was a point where in my upbringing where it's like Long Island, that scene kind of what didn't exist. You know, you really had, as a kid, the fine dining experience was like your mom and pops, like old timey restaurants that were probably restaurants when their parents were going to restaurants. And then, you know, the big thrill was places like Ground Round and shit like that. But now Long Island is full of classy fine dining. I mean, I'm from Lindenhurst, and Lindenhurst has picked up significantly as well.
100%.
So, you know, what do you think was the change? Do you think it was just time?
I think it was time. Yeah. I think that I always like to say that, like, we're lucky to live in the shadow of New York City because we kind of get that cultural ripple, but it
Sure.
takes a couple of years, right? It's usually like 5 years between like what's like at its peak culturally in the Manhattan before it kind of reaches out here. And so I think it's that. I think that two things kind of happened. I think that, like New York really, really took off, and a lot of the dining culture there, like, New York kind of remembered who it was for a while about 10, 15 years ago. And we started seeing kind of a resurgence of younger, newer, more modern chefs coming out. I think the cocktail bar resurgence of about 10, 15 years ago also um, kind of raised everyone's palate. And you figure how many Long Islanders are going to work in the city as well. And then I think kind of the birth and, like, boom of a lot of these Long Island downtowns like Lindenhurst, like Huntington, Patchogue, Bayshore, Farmingdale, now Ronkonkoma, like all these other areas that are starting to, like, really put a lot of love into their downtowns, into their dining districts, has also kind of like gone hand in hand. So, like, not only is there now, like areas that are just like people are going just, to have culinary experiences, but the people there are, kind of demanding a little bit more out of their restaurants because they're experiencing a higher level of dining in the city, or they're at least hearing about it, seeing about it. Of course, social media connects us to so many more places now, so much more quickly. So the overall, experience of what people think is good food, it used to be that you went to the ground round because the ground round was in your neighborhood, and that was like,
Yeah.
like your experience, like, so you had a choice of 5 or 6 restaurants in town, and I loved the ground round, by the way.
Yeah,
It was the
dude.
best stuff. Um, so I think it's all those things kind of playing together that's made it a lot more fun for a lot of us out here.
Yeah, man. And I will agree with you. Ground Round was a great time. You know, as a child, as a kid, like if your parents were like, "Oh, we're going to Ground Round," you're like, "Man,
That's
this is
it.
gonna be great.
Yeah.
Bowls of popcorn all night while you drink
I
your
haven't
face
felt
off." This,
serotonin like that since. I've been chasing that feeling my whole life.
oh, that's a great quote. That's a great quote. If only the people who founded Ground Round knew, right?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know. This guy's gonna come out of retirement now and be like, you know what?
let's bring it back. 16.
It's been 4 years now.
Hmm.
So
So right
we
after COVID.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we actually were very, very close, like a week away from signing a lease in Lindenhurst, believe it or not.
Oh,
The
no
location
shit.
that's now Sand City South was
Yes.
available, and massive space, 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, the
But
old CVS.
my partners at Russ were ready to kind of take the next step, and that was available. And we had this idea of basically taking over the space and splitting it and doing like a 60-40 space split. Larger space was going to be Rust and Gold 2. And then the smaller space was going to be what, the concept of 1653. We hadn't really know what to call it yet at that
Yeah.
point. And then literally in the 11th hour, the space that is now 1653 in Huntington became available. It was already a place called Massa's Pizzeria. It was
Okay.
a coal-fired pizzeria. It had this really old coal oven in there. It was doing good, but the owner was ready to get back to the city and kind of didn't fan out the way he wanted it to. And it was kind of a no-brainer. It was the same building, the same landlord as Rust and Gold. It was right next door. It was a smaller footprint, and we just felt it was much more low risk. We already had a good foothold in the town, so we pulled out of Lindenhurst and we signed that lease. And then 1 week after we signed the lease, thinking it was going to be maybe 6 to 8 months to turn it around, the pandemic hit. So we couldn't do anything. No, we sat on the
Yeah.
space, completely gutted for 2 years, and
Paying
just
rent.
yeah, paying rent,
Y-
just eating it, man. Like so many of us did.
Yeah,
It's
of
a very
course.
common, and it took a while. So we've technically had the space for 6 years. We've been open for 4 now.
Yeah, that was a tough time. I
Yes.
was working because, as you mentioned at the beginning of this, music and working in hospitality go hand in hand, and I did that as well. And bartending during 2020, things got super super scary, and that was just me as a bartender. So for you as a roaring business owner, I mean, those were that. I mean, that did, because I can't imagine you did anything else on the side. Like that was that's your stuff.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was a nightmare, it was an absolute
Yeah.
nightmare. But that is kind of what gave birth to the Rolling Gold. So, Rolling Gold was kind of a pandemic baby where, so my one business partner had he had a beer truck, but it was like a modern one. It was a Mercedes Metro, so it looks like a small Sprinter.
All
And
right.
he used it like it had like taps on the side and a whole system and a refrigerator in the back. And he used it for like festivals and things like that. So we got to a point where they started allowing the delivery of alcohol. They kind of that was like one of like the relaxed rules for a little bit. So we started using that truck, and the idea at that point was to go back to your point. We were kind of going to be the beer ice cream guy. So we started going around and traveling to neighbors in the house in Huntington that had, everyone was kind of like still locked in their houses. So we just go down the block and we had growlers. And I remember I would drive to Brooklyn to I can't remember the name of the glass factory, but I would just go and pick up cases of empty growlers for cheap, drive back out to Long Island, and we would load up the truck and drive around and just fill up growlers with beer for people. And it was amazing. Like you'd have dads that have been stuck in their house with their families for like weeks that would come running out with money in their hand, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
give me beer. And so that was the original idea. We did that for 2 days. On the second day, we finished another successful day. It was like the first like hit of happiness we've had in the longest time. We're like, oh my God, like this could help us get through this. And we had the truck sitting outside running because it had to run to keep the kegs cold. We just ran inside for a second. And while it was outside with the keys in it, a 16-year-old kid jumped in the driver's seat and stole it.
Born from fire and sweetness, forged in flavor, fresh chilies, raw honey, real warm, aged to perfection, balanced by nature, smooth, rich, and just enough heat to keep it holy. Holy Head Honey, divinely sweet, sinfully spicy.
No way, dude.
So he,
No.
yeah, just this little rapscallion, this little troublemaker, just jumped in there and took it for a joyride. So he ripped it all around Huntington and took it down to Huntington Station and popped all 4 tires, rode around on the rims for a while, and then eventually
What?
left it in the parking lot of the school. Literally, it was a running joke. I like ran out, came back outside, the truck was gone. I called my business partner who had like just left, and I was like, "All right, haha, Dick, where's the truck?" Like very funny. He's like, "No, where'd you do with it?" I'm like, "What'd you do with it?" And that went on for about 10 minutes until we both just kind of were like, "Oh my God!"
I
So
mean,
we
yeah,
we
but
didn't know.
stealing it versus the actual story, or I mean, what the? That's not just stealing it. That's being an absolute scumbag, man. Like,
Yeah, it's being a menace. So
wow.
the next day we posted, in the morning, we were so like, we didn't know what the hell to do at all. We're just like, what is going on? And so we called police, went through that whole process. And then the next day we posted on our Instagram. We're like, guys, you can't believe it, but the truck's been stolen. Like an hour later, we get a phone call and it was someone in Huntington Station. And they were like, hey, I think I'm looking at your van right now. It's like parked on a lot. So we get there and we start talking to a few people. Like we get there, it's like totaled, like, but it's just sitting in the lot. And we find out that all night the whole neighborhood was just coming out and pouring themselves beer out of the side of the truck. Like
Oh
people were like
my God.
Tupperware containers to like fill up with beer and bring back to their houses and stuff. So there was a little party that we sponsored in the hood that night, which I'm cool with that.
I
I
would.
wish
I
I would have
mean,
got out. I didn't get invited. Like most parties, I was not invited, so I didn't get to go. But it sounded like a blast. So anyway, we recovered the truck and it was messed up. And so at first we were a little like kind of we were a little like kind of wind taken out of our sails and we weren't sure what to do. But we immediately had so many, like, I think it was the next 48 hours, people were like, hey, like, is the truck fixed because I wanted to rent it for my kid's birthday? Or is the truck fixed because I wanted to rent it for my son's graduation party? And we're like, oh,
yeah,
we like might be onto something. Yeah, on just like the beer ice cream truck.
yeah.
So, we sat around and we kind of like, came up with the idea. We're like, all right, listen, like let's go all in on this, and if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. There had already been one or two beer trucks in America at that point that I saw, like they were all kind of bigger, bulkier, like all big like Ford trucks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's do something a little slicker. So we just kind of started peeping our heads around on the classic car market. We're like, all right, like we need something that looks sick. We don't want to destroy an absolute masterpiece, but like maybe there's something out there that's vintage that we could still wouldn't mind. Like we're not going to break anyone's heart drilling a couple of holes into the side. And sure
Yeah.
enough, we found it. It was this lovely old couple that had the '63 Chevy. He had a bunch of old cars, and this one had been through the market a few times, but it was already like it was more of his daily driver. So it was like the perfect scenario for us. We took it off his hands. We had, the right people kind of shoot, the draft system into it. And then the Rolling Gold was born from there.
Dude, I mean, that couldn't have been a more wild story. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
that it feels like when you put out the Rolling Gold, you should have made a commercial with that as a highlight backup story. That story is out of a movie, dude. That's crazy to like. I'm trying to empathize and live in those moments because you're worried enough that the truck gets stolen, and right away you're going to assume, of course, the beer is going to get stolen with it. And naturally it's going to get. Of course, it's just feasting. And but to think that the scumbag popped the tires and drove on the rims, I mean, now you're just being I can't imagine being the type of person to steal a vehicle, let alone then be like, you know what, in addition to that, I'm just going to fuck this truck up. I'm going to make it so terrible. It's good, but it's a great idea.
And he got caught because he just kept doing bad things. Like they caught him because I think it was 2 days later, he went into the back, like some poor handyman had his pickup truck there. This guy went and like grabbed one of his toolboxes and just dumped it all out into the middle of the street. And then later that same day, he like jumped an Uber driver to like steal his food. And then when he got arrested from that, they found the keys for the truck in his pocket. And that's how they tied it together. I'm like, is this kid the Joker? Like, what is he doing? Like, this guy's like running around causing fucking chaos everywhere.
He sounds like a minor supervillain in the making.
Yeah.
Like he's up to just chaos, creating like what the Joker, right? So, or the Michael Caine says to Christian Bale, he's like, some people just want to see the world burn.
That's
and
it.
It's like,
yeah. This guy
but you said he was 16,
and then eat somebody else's Uber order while he did it.
Yeah. But 16 years old, man. I mean, what is his future? Like if he's not in jail for life, which he probably
doesn't have too much one anymore. I don't know. Listen. Maybe this was what he needed. Maybe this was the wake up call. Maybe he went to trade school. Maybe he's a handyman himself now. Maybe that's what it was. He's like, I wish I knew what to do with these tools. I'm like, just use them like this. And he's like, oh, great. That's all I needed.
God, that's such a funny. Oh God, that's such a funny scenario, dude. But you know what? I mean, good things came of it, but like, what a kick in the pants at first.
Hey, listen, I know based on what happened because of that, if I ever see the kid, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, thanks, man. You kind of gave us a new business."
Yeah, be like, but stay away from me.
No, I'm gonna be like, "Get out away from me."
Yeah, dude, that's absolutely nuts. And one of my questions on this was, every successful restaurant has a crisis that almost killed it.
Yeah, that was
you have a few.
Yeah.
There's a couple, man. There's a couple. COVID, of course, crushed a lot of dreams in that type of regard. I mean, I can't even. There's an accurate number out there somewhere of the amount of restaurants and eateries that closed down. But I mean, you guys are. I mean, and to circle back to what you said before about like all the towns, because I got thrown off by our own ground round twist, but it was like the fact that Manhattan's influence on Long Island is such an accurate reason to the. I mean, because like the thing, I feel like now you don't have to go, if you're a Long Islander, you don't have to go into Manhattan anymore or Queens for a night out. There are several distinct places that you can go. I mean, back in the day as a kid, it was Rockville Center or Huntington and maybe Babylon, but then Patchogue got, I mean, I remember being, and I'm sure you do too, being in Patchogue when it was terrible. I mean, it was awful. And then all of a sudden it got such a facelift. And then from my understanding, it was the same guy that then gave Bayshore the facelift. And then, Lindenhurst got its facelift now, which is great because as a Lindenhurst person is like, I always was like, this place could be great. The train runs right through the heart. You can get right or left. Before COVID, I also was looking to open a place. And I had originally thought, it would be Lindenhurst. But I was like, at that moment, Lindenhurst had nothing. And I was like, being the first on the block seems a little, you want to kind of have
sure.
more. And now it's got plenty. I know we're going we're gonna have Paul from the pizzeria on here also, and
Nice. What's up? Get the man.
yeah, I mean, I remember it caught me off guard one time visiting back home, and I'm driving. I was like, that's kind of fun. A place just called the Pizzeria. I mean,
Yeah.
what a marketing decision that is. I mean, are there other businesses that you intend to open, or are you set now with all three?
No, I mean, yeah, the goal is always growth. We, over the summer, we had a lot of success with something called the Long Island Pizza Festival.
Yeah, I heard
So
about it.
I'm sorry, this is not the summer. That's September. It feels like a year. It feels like a millennia ago.
I get it.
So that's something that obviously is, we had an amazing day with. We organized it, held it here in Huntington, up in Milldam Park. We had a beautiful day. We had, I think it was just about 20 of some of the best pizzerias on the island come together, and we did 2 tasting sessions. And the response was truly overwhelming. We had over 2,000 tickets sold. Like probably almost like another like probably 2,500 people total by the end of the day between friends and family and all that stuff that came out. And it was a hit. And I was very lucky that, some of the guys, a lot of the people that you've had on your podcast, some of the best out there gave me a shot on the first year to kind of like show them, that this could be something that Long Island needs. And now like we're full steam ahead on that. So, we're going to keep growing that festival for sure. Year 2 is already in the works. I know
In
we're already on,
September,
probably about around the same time of year. Fall time seemed to be a good fit for it,
dude, I'm
Um,
gonna make my way to that one for sure. I'm gonna come across the pond for it.
Oh yeah, 100%, dude. You gotta. I mean, while this first year was great and it was everything that we could have hoped and more, we immediately sat down with 10,000 notes on how we can make this even more fun and even more interactive, and add educational aspects, add cooking lessons, add home chef competitions, add more family fun stuff. So it's only gonna get bigger and cooler, man, and more pizza, obviously.
Garrett, yeah, more pizza. That's and there's a couple things to respond to. First, I would say Garrett really, when he found out, when I told him like, oh, this guy Frank I know is going to be on, and he looked you up, and he's just like, oh shit, like he founded the pizza festival, and I was like, oh, that's fantastic. I mean, because that's the kind of thing that would my ass would be at in a heartbeat. But secondly, I was going to say, have you get like Scott Wiener involved? I feel like his I mean,
Yeah,
he's got pizza on the pier, but I just meant like because you said educational purposes, and I know he's like
yeah,
a pizza professor. It's like
yeah, of course.
teaching at
Brilliant.
Pizza University. It's crazy stuff. Do you have
100%.
yeah, but dude, I think that's where'd you say it was held? I know you said it, but
Yeah, we did it. So we did it at Milldam Park this first
yeah,
year, which is just a beautiful park up here in Huntington, right across from the marina. It's a lovely setting for it.
yeah. And you're gonna do it the same place next year or someplace else?
Well, we're exploring.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think that we already hit kind of our capacity at Milldam.
Yeah,
So it would have to probably be a little bit of a larger space. The Huntington does have a few other spaces that could fit it as well. So hopefully we can make that work and keep it in town, because working with Huntington was phenomenal. They were so supportive of it. All our elected officials really came through, helped us out a lot. So it was a great experience as far as that goes. So hopefully we can make it work there again.
dude, I love the idea of we talk about it every episode. And we haven't launched so far because we're just getting a bunch of episodes under our belt before we go out there.
Nice.
But like we talk about everybody is that the community, the pizza community, is unlike any community I've ever been part of. And I mean, I'm a jack of all trades, master of some type of thing. And it's just like, but like in any field that I've ever been part of, I have never noticed such camaraderie within the community as pizza.
Yeah,
It's crazy because you would normally assume to have a pizza festival or any festival that there are challenges, right? That normally a lot of businesses can confuse other businesses as their competitor. But in this world of pizza, everyone's just their friend. Everyone's sharing. There's room for it all.
for sure. And I think that was a big part of the message we were all trying to push with the pizza festival, is that
Yeah.
there seems to be, there's always a stigma, especially with pizza, that back in the day was very kind of closed off, and every shop was an island, and nobody wanted to share their pizza recipes, and nobody wanted, everyone kind of talk shit about what the other guy was doing. And listen, is that going to exist permanently in any food culture or any kind of social culture or
Yeah.
whatever? Of course, yeah,
Of course.
100%, that's going to happen. But it's far more supportive. It's far more kind of like hand in hand than a lot of people think. And when you have so much creativity going into this kind of resurgence of like this new style of Long Island pizza, and these kind of people that are now just like Tory T's that are doing an amazing Detroit, Talio's doing amazing Roman, Mike's doing like a really cool concept with his delivery and his
Yeah.
execution as far as how you get it, and when people are that creative and want to kind of just put themselves out there that much, I think, they're open to that camaraderie a lot more. They're open to more inspiration from other and communicating and sharing ideas because it's how we all get better. We all get better and then everybody gets better.
Yeah, I mean,
A really redundant, stupid way of saying it, but
no,
hey,
because
get better.
better is better. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like my only experience with that type of camaraderie was like as a bartender. As a bartender working in bars, usually, and that's classic bartender is that all bartenders on the street are pretty much friends. And but as you said, any single business, any community will have shit talkers. It's going to happen, but to have a pizza community, I mean, it's crazy. I learned how to make pizza purely because the pizza here isn't New York pizza. It's good, but it's Middle Eastern based. And that's kind of where
That's
the
interesting.
culture started with pizza here. Like there's some stories, and I'm going to have that guy on too. The oldest pizza maker, or the one who originally brought it to Sweden, he did go to Italy, but then what popularized it in like the 70s to now is Middle Eastern based. So I learned how to make pizza purely out of necessity because I still miss that New York taste, I
Yeah.
was like, this is cool. I dig this, but I really want that taste. So started doing some research, started watching Scott's videos. Scott gave me some advice personally. And then my buddy Garrett, he gave me a hands-on lesson one visit when I went and then learned how to make it. But then through that, you realize that everybody is so willing to share. And Rob Cervoni said the same thing, that back in the day, like you said, there's a lot of that older culture where it's like, no, I'm not going to tell you what's in. I'm not going to tell you what sauce I use. Not going to tell you what cheese I use, not dough. But now everyone's like, why? What's it? Just do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be different. What would on your pizza menu? What is the number one? What's the number one pizza that you guys sell?
Oof. I mean, the margarita always sells the most, but that's just because it's our standard and it's kind of
Yeah.
like everyone's foot in the door. The crowd favorites, usually the Gerard, which is we make a meatless vodka sauce in house, in which we use Etzo sausage, so really, really nice natural casing pepperoni, and so you get, a very Long Island flavor combination of vodka sauce and pepperoni and mozzarella, but delivered in, like our pizza. So it's, a 12-inch pie, 00 flour. It's being used, a little bit of semolina on the bottom, so you get kind of a unique experience as far as like the method of delivery.
Crafted from raw honey and fresh chilies, a balance of sweet and subtle warmth, aged with care to deepen every note, paired with cheeses and charcuterie, glaze across golden fried chicken, drizzle over wood-fired pizza, a touch transforms everything. Holy hot honey, divinely sweet, sinfully spicy.
And what's the most unique pizza you have? Like the most out of the box wild pizza you guys like that works?
That works.
Yeah.
So we do
That
a clam
works.
pie. We do like a little nod to New Haven with a clam pie where we basically take a ton of little necks. And the first thing we do is we kind of create like a clam cream base that we bake par into the crust. Then out of the oven, after it's properly cooked, we top it with more fresh little neck clams and we finish it with banana peppers and parsley. So you get this really nice kind of acidic kind of kick that balances all the richness from the clams, like super fresh flavor, that one. And then the mortadella turns a lot of heads. If Long Islanders are still about 50-50 on who's actually even heard of mortadella, who has seen it in real life before. So we make a really awesome white pesto base for the pizza and then top it with sliced mortadella. We finish it with a big dollop of stracciatella on top of each slice. And then a little basil and really good olive oil, and that one's phenomenal. So I'm catching. It's like one of our more stacked pies, but that one's cool too.
It's also ear catching, and I mean that for real, no joke or pun. Like listening to the ingredients, it sounds delicious. I like to hear out of the box pizzas. We had a friend on Tyrell Reed. I don't know if you know him. West Coast Pizza down in Florida. He said he made a peanut butter and jelly pizza, which is way out of the box, but hearing out of the box things. I imagine. Do you have a dessert pizza on your menu as well?
I mean, we mess around with different types of Nutella pizzas.
Yeah.
We don't go too crazy there, but I love that. I mean, pizza in itself is like, you can treat it as the sacred thing, and it really is. But it's also a food that's tied to our youth, and like snacking and like overeating a little bit. So I think to have fun with like other classic flavor combinations and stuff that reminds us of our childhood like that, and then present it in a way that's obviously not just slopping down some Jif and some Welch's on top of a slice. Like I think that's awesome, man. That sounds cool.
Yeah. I forget what he said he put on it, but it definitely wasn't just
Yeah,
slap.
I'm gonna go do that now, but hit the joint a little bit.
You mentioned the New Haven style. Do you have particular feelings on New Haven being dubbed the pizza capital of the world or the country?
I mean, I take that stuff as far as like, I seriously as like National Margarita Day. There's like 8 National Margarita here. I can never keep up. I think that everyone has the right to call themselves the best. If they feel that, man, I certainly think that I'm the best at a couple of things, but it's
For
mostly just
sure.
video games and staying single. But, so I think that it's how can you compare, things that are so stylistically different,
Yeah.
I think it always comes down to preference. I mean, New Haven's got a great thing going on there. You know what I mean? Like, so does South Massachusetts with like, bar pies and things like that. I think that there's areas everywhere that have dope pizza. I think I like deep dish pizza. I like Chicago style. Like you go to Chicago, I thoroughly enjoy that, so I think that you should just maybe,
Yeah.
I think it's personal preference, man.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's subjective. It's all subjective, and Paulie G, he had said that there is a place in Pennsylvania. Oh my goodness, Port shit, man. I'd have to. He said there's a place in Pennsylvania that has a welcome sign, welcome to the pizza capital of the world, whatever like that. And he said that, so he's like, he's like, it's not officialized by a governor or something like that, but they have it. But yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's subjective. And he said that towns taste like Elio's, but he's like, I love Elio's, so I don't care.
Yeah.
I had New Haven. I'll have it again because I wasn't impressed the time I went, but it was like, and I don't have a biased palate, like I can go
Yeah.
in and admire flavors, even if it's, I don't care for that. Like you ever watch the show Snack Wars, and someone who they only pick their favorite snacks are the ones from their country only. Like they refuse to choose. It's like, I'm just not like, it doesn't, if it tastes good, it tastes good. But for me, I had a pie from, it was either Pepe's or Sally's, and I posted a photo of it, and people thought I was lying. They thought I made this up. I told this to my buddy Tyrell in another episode, but they thought I was lying because the pizza looked terrible, and they're like, that's bullshit. You did that wasn't from there. I was like, why would I lie? So perhaps I just had a bad experience because it looks delicious. Whenever I see it done well, it looks great. Yeah, I would love to see what you guys do next. I feel like everything, I just like, I had asked the question, what ties you guys together? But to me, visually speaking, alone as a graphic designer, it's like visually speaking, there's an aesthetic that really blends everything together, and I like that a lot. I feel like this clean but cozy kind of aesthetic that you're bringing to all of that. Do you partially design it yourself, or do you have somebody to come in and help?
It's always a group effort. I definitely had an idea of what I wanted 1650 to look and feel like, and we were definitely able to accomplish that, which is cool. But it takes a village, man. Like we're lucky that my partners and I, and their significant others, everyone's got great creative input. But the overall look and feel of 1653, I always wanted to kind of mimic. I spent time in Sicily and going to a lot of the restaurants there, especially some of the more rustic kind of like remote areas. A lot of them are just kind of built into these. They're built into caves, they're built into earth. And so a lot of them have kind of a cave feel. So the coziness that you get there, and especially going and seeing some of those restaurants in the old country that put, modern installations, amongst kind of old, like natural, like earth formations,
Sure.
that was always like super interesting. So we're lucky that we had, a unique space at 1653 where we have 20-foot ceilings, even though it's kind of a narrow space. So we wanted to kind of play to that and just kind of keep drawing you in, keep drawing you back, and kind of play to that cave feel. But then, just put very modern touches here and there to kind of dress it up and make it, like feel fancy and make you feel nice when you come out on date night.
Dude, that's a super smart concept, and completely understandable too. Again, from a graphic point of view, that's really well thought and executed. And the reason I asked this is because I know some places. I worked at a place where the people who owned it had no input. They hired some fancy pantsy designer. Like, it came out okay, but it lacked a little bit of heart. But that's what your places don't. And I mean that sincerely. Like, that's not just a compliment for here. It's like, I had this conversation with my wife yesterday because I was at my barber, and my barber's cutting my hair, and I'm like, no, just leave it longer on the sides. And he's like, hey, I really don't want to. I was like, nah, but so you can tell when there's an artist who has heart in what they do. And so for you guys, there's clearly heart that's there. There's no heart missing. It's not some cold, overproduced cookie cutter spot, which I think is great.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That really
dude.
means a lot.
So you say you've been to Italy in the old country. Aside from, well, first, I'll just ask you generally, what is, other than your own, what's your go-to pizza? What is something that you long for, like whether it's a style or a place, like a specific pizzeria?
Yeah. You know what's funny is it always comes back to a square slice for me. And as a kid, that was Sicilian. I think I was always rebellious, and so everyone always wanted a classic slice. And I'm like, that's Sicilian. I always, through that, I always loved the burnt corner of a Sicilian. And I think that now has evolved into realizing like, oh, I just really like Detroit pizzas and Roman style. So
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, I can't say it enough. Like anytime I have a good Detroit, and there's a bunch of really great ones on the island, Donatino from Patchogue, Mike makes a really good one, and Tori makes a great one at Tori T's.
Yeah, we're gonna
Like
have her on too.
she's awesome, man. They are awesome. Like so that's probably right now my favorite style. But I mean, ask me next week, it'll be something
Sure.
completely different. I think
Yeah,
one of my
that's
favorite overall pizza experiences was in the city, and it was at Scars.
all right.
So Scars is Lower East Side. He is a chef that didn't come up in a traditional pizzeria. He actually came up in fine dining and then ended up opening up a pizzeria that was kind of an homage to his youth. So you go into Scars, the front looks like a small little slice shop, but immediately you kind of can tell that something is different. The vibe there is a little bit different. There's really good old school hip hop playing. And then you go into the back and there's a full bar. And there's about like 7 or 8 tables that kind of look like straight out of an 80s pizzeria, almost like Paulie G's, like some of
Sure.
Paulie G's shop and Paulie G's Spice Shop.
I love
Paulie
it.
G also amazing, amazing sweet dude. Came in when we
Yeah,
first
dude.
opened and gave us a lot of love, like a legend. And then you realize that the lights are a little bit dim and the walls are, like 80s wood paneling. There's posters on the wall from like all like amazing old movies like Belly and like there's old hip hop posters. And the whole thing is supposed to be kind of an homage to like growing up and hanging out in the basement. But the pizza is just slices, all organic ingredients, all made with love. Like the prep on it is nuts and it flavors like unbelievable. So, that was when we were first going on a lot of like vision quests for 1653. We spent a lot of time in the city, hit a million places, and all of them were phenomenal. And all of them had their place, in kind of developing the story, whether it was Roberta's or Lombardi's or Una Pizza Napolitana. But Scars always stuck with me because it felt kind of the most. I grew up in Valley Stream. I grew up with that same paneling on my basement, and
Yeah.
like listened to some of that same music. So that just resonated with me so much. That was probably one of my favorites.
Dude, the wood paneling is just Pizzeria 101. Like, to people like us who grew up with that, man, my parents had that in their living room. There's a photo of me from when I was 17. It looks like it was in 1972, just because I had long hair, but also the back paneling. It's such a classic. When we were talking to Paulie, and I was just like, where'd you get all this stuff? And his story, I don't know if you heard, it's going to be on the show, which is the booths were actually, he got them from the pizzeria that his children grew up eating pizza at. Like, he
It's
was
incredible.
friends with those people. Dude, those orange booths, that wood paneling, that's what you want at a slice shop, It's so I'm going to try that place out. I'm sure they still exist, right? Scars Pizza,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said?
Scars,
Dude,
yeah. No, they're in Vegas now. Like they've
Oh, all
absolutely
right.
blown up.
Dude, because it is, and it's an experience. I saw a thing online that I've now quoted several times on the show, but it's like, grocery store sells food, restaurant sells an experience.
Yep.
And that's exactly what it is, because you can, how many times, I'm sure you have heard it within your history of hospitality, how many people are like, what? I can get a 6-pack of blah, blah, blah for the same price. Well, you're not here. You're not at, Wallbaum's and King Khan and all these groceries.
Yeah.
You're at a place. You're here for the experience. And with that, though, I will say the bartender and the restaurant needs to, if you're charging experience prices, you should be delivering an experience.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure we've been to places that are charging strip club prices, but there's nothing going on there, It's so.
I mean, I've
when
been to
now,
strip clubs, the prices and nothing's going on. It's out the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah, I remember with a buddy, and we were truly at Hooters for the wings at the time. If you remember when it opened up in Farmingdale,
Yeah.
like the big one.
Okay. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
buddy. No, I'm just saying, Hooters wings are my favorite wings.
They're so freaking good, man.
They're good.
And I
They're so
remember
good.
I had a buddy, Aaron's ex-husband, actually. I was friends with him at the time, and he was so strongest dude I ever met. And he slapped the table laughing, and the table split in half. And I swear to God, dude, I swear to
the
God,
Giant one.
dude, I swear on my life, That's
amazing.
and they kicked us out thinking this dude, he's like Amos. I don't know if you ever had met him, but he was half
That's a
Native
strong
American
name, dude.
stuff. Yeah, dude, half Native American, half like Irish or something like that. And I'm telling you, the strongest guy I've ever met in my life. And just laughing, slaps the table, thing breaks in half. They kick us out, and we go to a strip club up the block. And I really was there for
He
the
breaks
wings,
a
so
stripper.
he pops 2 boobs, and
Yeah.
but I remember leaving because of those prices, because I wasn't there for that. I was there for a drink at the time, and they're like $9 for Bud Light. I'm like, for this? I was like, I'm out of here. Screw this shit,
Yeah.
But now I feel like that's actually kind of a standard price
Yeah.
for at least,
We're
you know, what does a
now,
Bud Light go for on Long Island
I
now?
mean, we're still getting, like $6, $7 for it. But I mean, that's used to
All
be a
right.
$3 beer,
Yes, exactly. And that's not
Back when
my
we had a,
beer of choice. I don't drink anymore, but even when it was, it wasn't. But that's like the standard,
yeah.
you know, for Long Islanders anyway, I guess. Speaking of that, then, what is one particular nightlife, hospitality, maybe food or drink trend that you would just wish went away?
Oof. It's kind of finally going away. And I think that was the social media push for giant shit. It was just
Yeah.
like for like that minute where every single influencer had to create the biggest version of a menu item. I
Yeah,
mean, we've had a lot of people kind of come in and out as handling our social media over the years. And, like anytime someone was like, well, what if you just did like, a hamburger that was 8 pounds? And I'm like, for what? Like, and
yeah,
then what? What am I going to sell? One a week, one a month, maybe. My food
maybe.
cost is going to be ridiculous. And then what have we done? Who are we selling for ourselves? But, people are scared to miss a trend. And so you kept seeing it everywhere and stuff like that. And I'm also an avid hater of the pasta wheel and it's the pasta wheel of cheese. I really wish that
Oh,
people would
for
stop.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, man, I'm probably I probably have a thing or that that do it at their restaurants and cool guys. Do you need to? Do we need
You
that?
mean like
'Cause,
when they melt the cheese right over the thing? Is that what you
no,
mean?
raclette's different because that's kind of a technique. I'm talking
Okay.
about the Parmesan wheel hollowed out that's been used for 50
Oh,
other days, like in the past week, that I'm now supposed to somehow believe is fine to still put my food in, slosh it around in there, and then put it on my plate. Like, I'm sorry.
uh, I've never seen that, but I do hate the other trend. I hated it from day one. The giant foods, like the one that pissed me off the most was the milkshake. That really wasn't a milkshake. It just had every food you can think of. I think it's in my memory. It started with Bloody Marys. Like
Oh
places
yeah,
were doing
that's
these
the
bloody, you know,
ground zero. Yeah.
a pound of bacon, a whole cucumber. Like, where's my Bloody Mary? But then the milkshake deal, and then there's a hamburger in the milkshake. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
What are you serving me, man? That's really I know. But so I'm glad I asked the question because you provided that answer because I wouldn't have realized that trend was dying because I think it just naturally went away from the zeitgeist kind of thing. You know, like
Yeah.
just thank goodness. It was
Yeah. We're
ridiculous
good with
because
that.
like you said, when that's something that nobody ever thinks about, how many of these are actually being sold, you know? And with that, how many are being finished? And I'm sure it's not much. So it's just so wasteful.
That,
So
there's probably a few like morbidly obese people that enjoyed it. And I think
yeah,
we're taking that away from them as a good thing. We're maybe, why don't you try
the
a giant salad, buddy?
challenges. Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, that's a
Nobody's ever looking
great.
for 10 pounds of lettuce. Why not?
That's a t-shirt. No one's ever looking for 10 pounds of lettuce.
Yeah.
It's such an accurate thing. We're on the closing now, and this has been actually super awesome, man. It's a shame
Yeah,
Garrett
man. It's
missed
been
it,
fun.
but dude, when I come back, I'm in up in December, over in December with my kids and stuff. I'm gonna
Oh, sick.
hit you up to make sure you're in because I want to come see you and
Dude,
try
come
the
in.
pizza there for sure. Yeah, I would love to. Dude. Come check it out. One last question to cap it off is 10 years from now, what is the hope for the Antonetti Empire?
I hope to be enjoying it at a peaceful distance at home with my
Nice.
to be determined wife and kids.
That's a beautiful dream and a reasonable, humble one too, man.
Thank you.
Dude, again, been a pleasure. We're good, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for all that you're doing for the community, man. You're doing really, really great things. And I can't wait to see this launch. And I'm sure you're going to be incredibly successful. And you're one of the most driven dudes I've ever seen. I've loved watching you kind of like progress through all the different walks of life. And now you're killing it here. So keep it up, dude. It's awesome. It's awesome work.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
With that, that's a wrap for this episode of the Holy Hot Honey Hour. Big thanks to Frank Antonetti for bringing the flavor and the fire. If you liked what you heard, give us a follow, a like. I am Matthew Zeiss without Garrett Klein. And until next time, stay hungry, stay humble, and never go too long without a slice. See you later, bro.
Later, guys.